Good morning. I'm Josh Brill with Realty One Group out of the Surprise office. Today is Friday, July 21st, 2023, and I'm going to be talking about today's real estate market for the second quarter of 2023. Kind of in short, I'm really happy to report that the first half of 2023 is significantly better than the last half of 2022. 2022, we were dealing with a bit of interest rate hike that we weren't familiar with. Things kind of really slowed down. Listings, a lot of things just kind of felt different. And so since December of last year, our home values have appreciated between 5 and 7%. Looking at the overall big picture of real estate, coming back from our COVID window of inferno crazy 30% value increase, we're between 5 and 7, which is really what you want. And when we look at the history, this is how our values have progressed moving forward. So that's really great for everything in our market. And so the way I like to look at a lot of our real estate is I got to focus on the data. No different than when you go to see your doctor. Your doctor's going to draw blood and see where you're at. You really can't argue with those things. And so what the talking faces and everyone else has to say is a little bit different what the data has to say. I'm going to say it's more positive. As it relates to selling a home, we're focused on our days on market and available inventory. And right now, it's 57 days for the month of July. We go back last year we were 55 days. Very different from the year prior when we were only dealing with 19. Put a for sale sign up, it's freaking gone. Now, although it's still 57 days, feels a little bit slower, it's still moving a little bit quicker than what history says. So that's really good. Now, that's just the average. Some are going and some are still moving quickly. When we look at home ownership in the Phoenix area, 57% of all homeowners have been in their house for at least 3 years. And during this 3-year window, many of the houses have appreciated 40% in that 3-year period. So even if you did buy your house in 2021, you still made money. Only do we see any slight depreciation as we near towards the end of last quarter, like I had said there. The great thing about the 40% of appreciation is it's actually holding and it's maintaining. So in the eyes of I want to buy a house, is it still going to be there? It's really hard to argue with the data that shows that things are being held, which is awesome. I like to look at single family homes rather than townhomes and condos and such. And so when I looked at the numbers this morning, our active listings, regardless of price point, there are roughly 6,600 houses on the market. Just under $600,000 budget, there are only 3,100 houses, almost half. And if we step down a little bit lower to a first-time home buyer, maybe it's about a $400,000 range. We're looking at 796 houses. So it's very understanding trying to establish your expectations on what you're looking at. Inventory is still down despite our sudden increase in interest rates. When we step back and we look at the last 45 days, how many houses have gone pending? There's been 4,100 houses that have gone pending. And in that same time period, we've closed 6,200 houses. 6,200 houses we've closed in the last 45 days, and there's only 6,600 houses on the market today. That's fascinating. Dialing it back just a little bit further, I looked at the canceled listings. The canceled listing is when a seller and a real estate agent part ways, whether it be one letting go of one or the other one not being happy with who they have. In the last 45 days, there's been 902 canceled listings. There are only 796 homes at the $400,000 market. Put that in perspective, just how tight those numbers are, how close those numbers are. It draws a lot of attention of needing a quality agent and being able to lead you through. So that's, it's just interesting data, and the numbers don't lie. Looking back a little bit from last month, 42% of the closings that happened in June, the seller was required to kick in closing costs to the buyer. These are costs that the buyer brings as baggage, their loan fees, so on and so forth. Number about on that is averages around $8,000 per closing. So that means almost half of all the houses that sold, a seller also had to contribute to kind of make ends meet. Now this is in that price point between $200,000 and $500,000. Looking at that in a little bit greater detail as well, about 20 to 30% of the homes in that price range also had an average of $500 to $5,500 in over asking over list price. Now, of all the houses, last 6,200 homes that have closed, you got to take in consideration some are hanging on there. There's opportunities where a seller's kicking in contributions, but at the same time, the homes that are priced right and show right and are great are also still selling quicker than 57 days, and they're getting over asking money. That's really great. So you just got to be prepared in what you're looking at in that regard. So when we step back and we look at the 17 largest cities in all of Maricopa County, all of them are statistically in a seller's market. That means that there are more buyers coming to the table than there are houses available to sell. To stretch on that further, I checked the interest rates today. The interest rate today is 7% for conventional loan. Although we have a 7% interest rate, our inventory would literally need to double what it is today in order to balance that shift, where both buyer and seller have the same kind of leverage. Right now, sellers still got a little bit of it, but thankfully they're a little bit more humbled after having come from the batshit crazy time we did a couple years ago. So that's reassuring for buyers wanting to just find and make an informed decision. It's a great segue into interest rates. Conventional loan today, 7%. FHA loan is 6.6%. Difference between the two is a conventional loan is a loan that a bank takes the risk on you. They usually require a little bit more money down. They also have different kind of underwriting process. On the flip side, FHA is 6.6. Great. And the minimum down payment's a little bit less, and they also have different kind of underwriting. To the wonderful news of, FHA in making it more affordable is that the feds have increased the funding for FHA almost $100,000. So last year we were in mid-low fours. Now we're floating right around 530 range. So the affordability has gone up. Minimum down payment is much more usable and such. And because of trying to manage through this volatile interest rate situation to their benefit as well, they've also lowered the mortgage insurance, which again has put a lot more, it softened the blow a little bit more on these interest rates. Some lenders have upped their ante and created 1% down payment programs for buyers, which is awesome. And through all of this, it used to be when you'd submit an FHA loan in the heyday, the craziness time, it was questionable. You didn't want to dabble in it because you had so much stronger things. And at that time, last year, for example, we only had 9% of our closings only occupied FHA. Through these changes and the affordability of that, the end of April, our closings averaged around 22% of the 22% of FHA loans. So that means everything's got to be kind of in that 500,000, 600,000 and less down. All the data I just gave you shows how competitive all that situation is. So that's really great to know that there are options out there for buyers in a way that kind of had to be developed after December and as we were going through that. And now I am no lender. I know a little bit about what's going on to kind of help lead through, but I do have two amazing trusted source people. My good buddy Jeremy at Barrett Financial on the East Valley, and just in my backyard, Tyler Arnares with Arnares Mortgage. These are both really great guys, and they will serve you in the same capacity I will in answering questions about the hows and the whats. This is very important to understand as you are a buyer wanting to hopefully buy in this area. Stepping back, looking at what it costs to rent a home in today's time. I just jumped on, and we've got about 150 houses in the Surprise area, single family homes that are available for rent. There were 2 houses that were in the 1,800 range, and from there everything went up to almost 3,000. Keep in mind I can only see so much because the market has changed and not needing an agent. Nonetheless, as it relates to renting, you're looking at a normal rent payment in that mid to low 2,000s up to 3,000. When you look at owning a home with a mortgage and an interest rate of that 6 to 7%, your mortgage payment's going to be around in that same thing. So that kind of draws attention to the fact that, it's still really good to buy. With the sudden increase in the interest rates, you as now a homeowner, your tax deduction at the end of the year writing off that interest rate is significantly greater than someone who purchased a couple years ago in that 2.5%, 3%. Although it's still a bit of a sting in the equation, there's a benefit to a household family to use that as a strong deduction. In the eyes of a seller, the sellers, it's a great time to sell because you can still have a little bit more opportunities trying to buy a house than you did a couple years ago. The market is still in your favor. That doesn't take away the fact that you really have to think out your plans and go through the great details of what is involved. I pride myself on being able to create a safe place for somebody to ask questions without expectation. And so if you have questions about what to do, how to do any of that, I'm so happy to pick up some pizza and some beer and crack open up the MLS at your house or open up a market analysis and go through these details. There's a lot of moving parts, and the data here, it kind of helps justify what decisions are made and also justify what decisions aren't going to be made. So I appreciate you spending your time to hear my thoughts and go over the data. I'm Josh Brill with Realty One Group. I'm a safe place to ask questions without expectation. My phone number is 480-828-8869. I'd be grateful to help, as I believe in my heart I have an unfair advantage, as though I care more. And so please reach out. I'm happy to help you or somebody you know, or I'm also happy to share my lender buddies to help get after it. So have a great Friday, and I'll see you in a couple months.